What's up, Star Wars fans? My name is Prince, and I'm an urban acolyte. And this Star Wars chat or Star Wars discussion is going to be kind of heavy. We're going to deal with Luke Skywalker, and I've got a couple of questions that I'm going to attempt to answer. And this is all coming straight from the dome. I haven't really prepped for this video, but I want to look at the possibilities of Luke Skywalker becoming some kind of Jedi saint, and two, Luke having to reboot the Jedi Order with Rey and any other children of the Force or Force-sensitive people that they may encounter after post-Episode 8. That is, if Luke Skywalker makes it out of 8. There's a lot of people who believe that the Last Jedi is going to die, and that's the reason we have a bloody red title, is that this is going to be the Last Jedi, and that Rey will have to rebuild a new type of Jedi Order that'll be different from its predecessor. So I got this tweet from Dictionary Jane, and she shared this post on Reddit with me about Luke Skywalker and a relationship to St. Ignatius of Loyola. Now, I haven't read this Reddit thing yet. I just said, wow, that looks cool. I'll definitely do a video on it. So here I am. Now, I'm going to read just a short excerpt from Readings in the History of Christian Theology, Volume 2. I'm not going to edit that. I'm just going to leave in all my mistakes. Shout out to my boy Jerry Arruda up in New Jerusalem, up in Newark, my old stomping ground when I was a real little kid back in 1987. He likes when I just say F it. I'm just going to do it all in one take and show y'all all the mistakes. Now, I'm not going to read this whole thing because it's really long, and I got to read this long Reddit post so that we can discuss this. And I'm kind of not giving a shit about how long this video runs. So if I talk an hour, if some of you want to watch me talk about this for an hour, it's all gravy, baby. Y'all can probably hear motorcycles and stuff behind me. I don't know how much the noise reduction is going to remove from the ambient noise going on in my neighborhood right now. But anyway, St. Ignatius of Loyola was born in 1491. Died in 1556, so he was born a year before Chris Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Ignatius Loyola was born in Spain. That's a very Catholic country, and began a career as a soldier. And on the Catholic thing, I had the video where I called the girl because she said, like, Catholics go to church on Sunday, and I said, well, they go to church on Friday nights too. And people, no, Prince, you know. Guys, I know that Catholic people go to church on Sunday. We could, if you want to have a discussion on Constantine and how Constantine made it legal for Christians to gather on Sunday, which they had already been doing because the synagogues were occupied on the Sabbath on Saturday. So that's why one of the reasons that Christians go to church on Sunday was because they were using the synagogues and they couldn't go because they were being occupied by the Jewish people. So they'd meet on Sunday when the Jewish people were off doing their thing and not occupying the synagogue. But I also attended Catholic school when I was a little kid, and we would have mass on Fridays and school dismissed early. There's a convent right down the street from me. They do things on Friday. So, you know, it's always, let's be in a hurry to jump on the guy on camera because we obviously don't know what we're talking about. But, I was just saying that Catholics also have Mass on Fridays. Orthodox, especially Egyptian Orthodox, Coptic Egyptian Orthodox do, because the Egyptian used to, ask me all the time, like, when do I go and have Eucharist? Or they'd ask me about Vespers, and I can show you some books written in Syriac that I was helping translate for a project when I was at Vanderbilt that would talk about like the different times that they would hold Mass. But anyway, we're talking about Ignatius of Loyola and Luke Skywalker. So he was a soldier and he was convalescing after being wounded. He turned to the religious life. He gradually developed a book of spiritual exercises with which a spiritual director could lead people through a series of meditations and prayers. and others soon sought him out for spiritual guidance. In 1540, Pope Paul III granted official recognition to Loyola and his friends as the Society of Jesus, the Jesuits, and they soon established their reputation as missionaries and scholars. These rules form one of the appendixes to these spiritual exercises. They illustrate the conjunction of theological theory and practical reform in the Catholic Reformation. So Ignatius of Loyola was active during the Catholic Reformation period, basically a response to the Reformation that was kicked off by Martin Luther when he hammered his the 95 Theses to the doors of the Catholic Church. Basically, like we have Presbyterians, Methodists, Lutherans, Baptists, all different flavors of Baptists, and Pentecostals, and all of this stuff, because this German dude, Martin Luther, who liked to drink a lot of beer and had horrible constipation, wanted to have a debate with the Pope, and that's why we have all these different churches and denominations now as Protestants. All right, so let's hop over to Reddit, and this is really long. It was submitted 2 days ago by IndianaRey. IndianaRey. Actually, this isn't as long as I thought it would be. So let's go over this. All right, and some of it repeats what I just read. So shout outs to IndianaRey. And I'm assuming that IndianaRey is a female, so I'm going to say, no, I'm going to be gender inclusive and just say they. Okay, so they wrote, I've noticed some similarities between these two men, meaning Luke Skywalker and St. Ignatius. And after reading some recent posts on Luke perhaps creating a new order of some sort, I thought I'd share my own speculation. 3 main points about St. Ignatius of Loyola are that he was a wounded soldier, his mother died in childbirth, he was an aristocrat that took up arms and was wounded in battle, was in solitude recovering from his injuries when he had a spiritual conversion. B, he wrote the spiritual exercises, basically a tool for laymen and lay women, so that we can know God more easily and make a return of love more readily. He was instrumental in stressing the awareness of the presence in everyday life and activities. Talks about God being in all things. Seeing God as an active being who's always at work in the present moment, the here and now, and is in a working relationship with man, with people. He saw the link between God and humanity similar to a bond of friendship that develops over time as a human relationship does. Collaboration is the structure of this relationship. The heart has reasons of which the mind knows nothing, learning compassion from exercises that focus on the heart more than the intellect, teaches true freedom. The freedom from desires and fears of wealth, power, success, failure, basically that we are all free to do God's will. Founded the Jesuits, Roman Catholic order of religious men noted for its educational, missionary, and leading force efforts to modernizing the church, referred to as God's soldiers or God's Marines, consecrated under the patronage of Madonna della Strada, Our Lady of the Way, Blessed Virgin Mary. Ignatius left his sword before the altar of our Lord and donned the sackcloth of a beggar. Sounds very Buddhist in nature. Okay, I realize that Star Wars isn't about Catholicism and that Luke Skywalker isn't a priest or anything like that. We could argue that he might be. But what I like about this comparison is that the idea about a human man in solitude having a conversion and wanting to modernize ancient teachings because it sounds inclusive. It also sounds as if Luke, like St. Ignatius, wants to help in this destiny of the Force by expressing the needed bond between mankind and the divine. And this relationship has evolved because we as humans have evolved, and the Force has evolved with us. I truly believe that Star Wars will want to let the audience know that the Force resides within all things, everything, not just holy people, and from solely our own choices can we contribute or not to the Force itself. A collaboration. What do you think? Shout outs to you, IndianaRey. I actually love what you have to say. And I firmly believe that that is the direction where Star Wars is headed. When you look at Rogue One, and I mean, as a person with a background in theology, I always want to look at what's going on with the religion. Whenever I look at anything, right, in anything, if you look at the religion, the state of the religious people, you can tell a lot about a place. I'll give you an example, right? If we look at the time period when the Prophet Muhammad lived in modern day Saudi Arabia, I think. I might be messing that up. Headcanon is off. But in that area where Mecca was, there people were selling idols. It was like a big tourist place where you go, and whatever kind of god, whatever religion you bought, you could buy different kind of relics and artwork, these different kind of things. This was the main economy. You had all these people coming to the Kaaba, but it wasn't like, because there was no Islam yet. Islam had not been established as a religion, right? But you had it, so it was a place about tourism and selling these relics. And then when Muhammad comes in and says, no, all these other religions are false. There's only everyone who believes they're serving Allah, or you're serving Allah wrong. This is the proper way you serve Allah. This is the only true religion. This is the religion of this place. And people wanted to kill him, right? There's a reason that if you interpret the Quran in a certain way, it's very violent, because he was writing this during a time of war. People were after him. They were after his neck. Why? Because he upset the economy, right? Because that's how people made their change, baby. You know, you stop the flow of coin, you messing with people's stomachs, and you know, it's like that line, Smokey, when you mess with my money, you mess with my pride, homie. You know, he was messing with people's pride. So that's the reason, that is the reason that people were, that the early Muslims were at war with everyone, because they were getting chased out of places, because they were upsetting the economy, right? It's always about money, baby. Money and control and power. You know, when I say you can learn a lot by looking at the state of the religion, you know, people think I'm, you know, being some kind of holy roller, and I'm like, no, man, get your head out of your behind. Listen to what I'm really saying. Really examine what's going on here. You know, I could get into a whole spiel about in our country and the fact that you had, and you guys, you don't like that I talk about politics. I don't give a shit, right? Look at, you know, when you have certain churches that allow these politicians to come in, or they push some political agenda, right? You know, there was a big gripe about both Trump and Clinton. When they wanted to get the black vote, they went to black churches. And I said, well, what about those of us who don't associate with the black church? We grew up in that environment and left, right? So what does this have to do with Star Wars and Luke Skywalker? Because you're losing me, and I don't give a shit about theology. I didn't study Jesus stuff like you did, and Buddha stuff and whatever else. So let's look at Jeddah, the planet Jeddah. The planet Jeddah, where all these pilgrims go. It's like the navel of religion in Star Wars. I can think of at least four religious groups that I saw. There was the Guardians of the Will, the Brotherhood of the Will. There was the Death Cult, and then there were the people in the red, and they had like the holy. They carried like moisture vaporized. They had like some kind of holy water, right? So that was at least 4 religions, and there were some more in there, right? They're the people that wore the Chinese farmer looking hats, like the dude that Kylo Ren killed during Rey's vision, because whatever he belonged to, I firmly believe we saw those people on Jeddah and on the space station. The Cassian Andor was on at the beginning of Rogue One. I don't know why I forgot the name of the movie. I'm talking about it. And then what else was there? The Kyber crystals, and the Empire needs these Kyber crystals. They're harvesting them for the purposes of the Death Star, right? And how many of those did they keep for Death Star number 2, right? That they're building off somewhere else in secret, right? And then you think about the First Order. The First Order has been out in the unknown regions of space harvesting kyber crystals because their weapons are also powered by kyber crystals on their super star destroyers. Now, if you ask, now I'm going to say, totally admit that I got that information from another YouTube channel, and I found that sometimes when I do that, like I did it with the Stupendous Wave, I quoted something he said and it was wrong. I got hammered and he didn't. But that's the nature of the beast. Maybe you guys are more critical. Maybe my audience is more critical of what I say versus his audience, which I imagine is a lot of under 25 crowd. Where here, I say one thing that the teenagers and the young adults get upset about and they stop watching. Where the older adults, just like, keep going, Prince, keep going. You messed up, keep going, because you know how it is. So we've seen religion now in Star Wars and how important it can be. And if you haven't, it's going to be more important. The role of the Force in people who aren't Jedi. And what we're going to learn, and what Dave Filoni has admitted, Pablo Hidalgo has admitted, that George Lucas said, is that the Jedi and the Sith did not have a monopoly of the Force. We got introduced to a dude on last season of Star Wars Rebels by the name of Bendu. Then we saw those rock creatures that Yoda encountered in the Star Wars comic book, where Luke was reading Obi-Wan Kenobi's journal, right? So there are other people who use the Force who have some high degree of mastery when it comes to whatever it is in the Force that they study. Like Bendu, we've never seen somebody turn into a storm like that. And then his body appeared to be, he appeared to die, but he just faded away and was like, I'm still here, right? And it's not like the Force Ghost thing where only another Force user can see and experience that. Bendu's still there, so it's like he can leave his body at will, like the saying of a Taoist immortal. They shed their bodies like a snake sheds their skin, but they're immortal. They still exist. They still keep going, right? He dematerialized, and he could rematerialize at any point he wants. So it's like he's virtually immortal, right? What's the role of that? And then when Luke Skywalker, if he has discovered the Journal of the Wills, an old copy of the Journal of the Wills, or old documents, actual books, like written books bound with paper and leather there on Ahch-To, then maybe he's encountered real Jedi teachings and has had time during his hermitage, his time of solitude, to realize it's time for the old way to end, right? This is a reformation. Maybe the Jedi were wiped out for a reason, and what I was doing before with this old order, well, this new order that I was building that got wiped out by my nephew, is I was rebuilding that same thing that was already broken, and that broken thing doesn't need to come back. It's time for the Jedi to end. And we've got to start new, a new Jedi Order with a new teaching. The same way that in Legends, in the extended universe, Luke Skywalker, he said, the Jedi and their fear of attachments, which really technically isn't wrong. Like the way, they weren't allowed to have families. That rule, there was an issue there, is that the families would lead to an attachment. But I think a lot of people misunderstand the role, what having an attachment means. You can have a wife, you can have children, but you have to learn to let go. Like what Yoda said technically wasn't wrong. And when you consider the fact that Anakin wasn't being truthful, Yoda was completely in the right. And you can disagree with me, but Yoda was basically, that whole thing about Anakin, train yourself to let go of everything that you hold dear to you. That's straight from a Buddhist sutra. That's something the Buddha said, was to train yourself to let go. So there's something to that a real world teaching to that, not just, oh, Anakin, you got to let go. And yeah, Padme is going to die and you might lose your baby. And it's like people read that and they're like, no, Yoda, the Jedi didn't understand. And Anakin had a mother and they didn't understand. And I, for a while, I was on that wagon too. But at the end of the day, those things are non-permanent, right? So, you know, when Luke is trying to rebuild this order, he's not finding children. He's not abducting babies, they're not even really abducting babies. Because if you look at the story of Ahsoka Tano, you know, this was a big thing. We've got a child. I mean, it was like basically like having a prophet. You know, if you read the Bible, it's like having a prophet born into your family or something that's been anointed. This was a big deal, right? A Jedi. There's 10,000 Jedi and countless numbers of beings in the galaxy, and you only have 10,000 Jedi. I mean, that's that's like 1 in 100 billion, right? You know, I'm pulling numbers, but if you think about how rare it would be to see a Jedi in the Old Republic, and then you have a child who's strong with the Force, and even those children, they would be abducted and taken as slaves and whatever else. That's what almost happened to Ahsoka. Was a bounty hunter was coming, pretending to be a Jedi to take her and make her a slave. And, you know, then they was like, okay, we've got this Force-sensitive child. We're going to make them a slave and then send them to the gladiator pits or whatever so we can have fun and say we killed an almost Jedi and brag about how badass we are because we kill children, right? Who don't even have lightsabers and don't even have training to fight back, really. But that's a tangent. My point is, Luke is not conscripting children. He's taking people. What did the prologue or the epilogue say that I've read in, I don't even know how many videos I've read, that there's a stirring between the girl and the man, Luke and Rey, when she's holding that lightsaber, and the Force has begun anew, and there is an entire generation of children of the Force who have been born, and they can't even hear the call of the Force to them because they don't know how. Some of them don't even know that the Force exists, right? And so if Luke is going and bringing these people in, or Rey is bringing these people into the fold and training them, well, they had lives before then. They had families. They have attachments. And so you can't teach the same way. And additionally, if the Jedi are a physical manifestation of the Force, you know, in the flesh, just like the Word became flesh, the Force became flesh. That's why I said I could argue that Luke is a priest. It's their job to spread the teachings, to say, look, the Force is real. Let me show you what happens when you're fully connected to the Force, and it makes things levitate, and maybe they're healers, and they do all kinds of other stuff, and they give hope, right? But you have people, you know, Han Solo, I don't believe in the Force. It's just a bunch of hocus pocus and magic tricks, and all I need is a good blaster. And then when he sees it, he becomes a believer, right? And the Jedi weren't doing that. They were locked away in their ivory tower there on Coruscant, serving the Senate, believing that by serving the Republic, they were peacekeepers in the galaxy, when they should have actually been in the galaxy, keeping the peace among the people, right? Dwelling among the people, not in a tower locked away somewhere. It should have been among the people, maybe even living like hermits on remote planets, you know, the way Obi-Wan Kenobi did, the way Luke Skywalker is, right? That's where I think the Jedi are going to go, and maybe that's a reason that Luke never affiliated his new order, his new group batch of students with the New Republic. One, because people might not have trusted, oh man, here's the Republic and here's their Jedi with their lightsabers and they're telling everybody what to do. But I think he saw that was part of the downfall, part of the fallacy of the Jedi, was that they were allowing everyone to lift them up when they should have been the ones lifting other people up, right? So those are my thoughts. I know this was kind of a long and wordy discussion, but I wanted to respond to this, and this gave me a lot to think about, and I hope it gave you a lot to think about. So what are your thoughts? Do you see Luke as some kind of St. Ignatius type character where he's going to rebuild some new kind of order that's going to spread the Jedi teachings to lay people? Because we've already got a Church of the Force, and we've already have a Church of the Force, people who have devoted themselves to studying the ways of the Jedi and trying to live up to what the Jedi represented. So it's very easy to get plugged into that system and to proliferate those teachings throughout the galaxy, to spread the light and to put down the dark, right? Because that's what Star Wars is about. Balance is the light, keeping the dark in check. So let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll be checking back to see what you all have to say. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and click on that subscribe button so that you can take your first steps towards becoming an urban acolyte. Make the commitment to becoming the hero of your own story and become a force for change in your community. Continue to support the channel. This is July, and I said I'm going to try my best to put out 50 straight Star Wars videos. This is number 3 of 50, so 47 more to go by the 31st. And hopefully we get some kind of behind the scenes sizzle trailer or something. If we're not going to get the real trailer in D23, I'll be talking about that in another video coming up soon. But anyway, that's all I got for this one. So thanks for watching. Y'all keep on breathing, and may the force of others be with you always.